What's up, everyone? Welcome back. I'm Billy Liucci.
And I'm Amanda Atwell.
And we are
moving some goalposts. We'll see who's moving them today. I think our guy over there might have moved some last week that we might have to explore one more time today.
Revisit a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, how you feeling, though? I feel like, well, also, congratulations, Aggie Volleyball National Champions.
Thank
It's something to be very, very proud of. That just happened right before we started recording this episode. So at least some good news for the Aggies this weekend, something to be proud of coming out of this otherwise somewhat disappointing weekend.
Very disappointing weekend on the football front. Obviously, anytime your season ends. But, yeah, A&M volleyball, just a hat tip right now to and I know Texas was there. Was it just 2 years ago, I think? Maybe 3, but they were very recent.
They won it 2 years straight,
yeah,
I think.
I think it was 3 years ago and 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But we talked about it last week after A&M beat Nebraska. I really could see this A&M Texas volleyball rivalry now all of a sudden being something that just is massive on the national scale. But what a win for Jamie Morrison.
And did they sweep? I wasn't able to watch it, but
they swept through the whole Final Four.
That's crazy.
So that's
insane.
They beat the number one, the best
Nebraska.
cut team and undefeated. They beat them in 5 and then swept right through the Final Four over Pitt and Kentucky, who beat them earlier in the year. So pretty remarkable season. I think they lost 4 matches this year. 3 of the 4 they split. So like Texas actually avenged A&M, but A&M won the first one. So they split with Texas, avenged Kentucky, avenged TCU. Really a remarkable season. And what I don't know if a bunch of Longhorns know if they don't follow volleyball, but Jamie Morrison is in year 3. And I believe he was on the Texas staff for a hot minute there when he was first getting his feet wet in college volleyball. And it was a really interesting off the radar hire by Ross Bjork, former AD Ross Bjork and Justin Moore. It was a unconventional hire because he didn't have a lot of, and Jamie talks about it, a lot of people told him no because he didn't have that college volleyball background. But to win it in year 3 with a lot of people, and like I said last week, one of my good buddies' daughter, Logan Lednicki, and that crew kind of hung in there through a coaching change and stayed, when in this day and age, you can just snap your fingers and leave. So really special accomplishment. I'm excited for them. There are a ton of Aggies there. Special season, national title. I mean, we spend most of our time talking football, but I know you and I both and a ton of our listeners love all sports, anything maroon and white or burnt orange we're really proud of. And, man, you played college sports. You're a big women's soccer fan. Like, I think volleyball is as exciting a sport to watch live as there is. It's so fast paced, and the women are so damn athletic. It's unbelievable.
I always said that about women's soccer too. I just always found women's soccer so much more entertaining than, say, watching men's soccer. It moves faster.
Yeah.
It moves a bit faster. There's not a bunch of fake floppy falls.
Yeah.
Men's soccer just really irritates me. So I'm excited for Texas to get a new coach in that category and see where it goes. But let's talk about the other kind of football.
Let's go.
Pivoting here.
First
we need to give a shout out before we forget. Give a shout out. I'm sure there was a good amount of it drinking. That's not a word. Drink this weekend.
They was drinking. They were drinking.
That's what I'd be saying if I had been drinking some La Casa.
My friends drank a lot of it after the game. I was kind of just like not quite in the mood, but we had.
Really, you don't say. I will say I sent Billy a very nice text message at the end of that game.
You did.
I said that's a awful way to lose. I'm sorry, with a sad face.
And sometimes we support each other. Contrary to what people think, we will pick and prod and talk shit as much as anybody. But when we know the other one's down, we'll just take like one little moment and be. I did that last year after the Texas-Ohio State game.
Well,
Like,
the thing
hey,
is, you didn't have much. You couldn't really say much after the Ohio State game, anyways, because Texas beat A&M. They had won 2 college football playoff games.
but I wouldn't have in that moment. Like
Yeah.
we're all fans, so we know like
Now our friend
the
Peyton
heartbreak.
put nothing past her.
Oh, no, she's unstoppable. Like
She's a little bit.
she's a monster. She's a monster.
Yeah.
We love her, but she's
I was at least nice, but then the poking fun proceeded.
Yeah.
And I mean, most of it's just stuff that other people are posting that we're forwarding to you. So
yeah.
I try to keep it pretty.
Y'all are there to remind me as if I don't have Twitter myself and I don't see the stuff.
Seeing all this yourself.
Dude.
You don't have a very similar algorithm.
Exactly. Well, yeah. So La Casa Tequila, Drake and the crew down there, they've been a great partner to us, and I think more and more Aggies and Longhorns are starting to discover what they've got going down there, and it is outstanding. All of the brands are, all of the. I always never know what to say there. I need to ask them. What do I say in terms of all the different types of tequila?
Different kinds of tequila.
What's your favorite right now?
I like Reposado. Reposado's a favorite. I switch back and forth from the Blanco to that.
That's what I do,
I'd like to try
too.
the new kind. Yeah, I still need my La Casa restock. We've pretty much rolled through. I think we have like 1 or 2 half bottles left.
Despite the loss, I am planning to go to the Cotton Bowl. Spoiler alert, guys, I might see like Ross Bjork. So if there's a photo of me talking to him, let's calm down. I'm going down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think people took photos of you at the Cotton Bowl last year and were like, he's a secret
traitor,
spy, Longhorn fan.
I was telling you that during the game. I was like, that was ridiculous. That's going to be.
I was just trying to get you to get Ted Cruz off the field at that game, which I'm sure a lot of Aggie fans probably agree with the sick of the curse. Now it's a playoff curse because it happened to both of us in the playoffs.
Not to get political, as I don't, this is not.
It's not political. It's just a known
that's a curse. Yeah, that's a sports curse without question. But I'm saying they had DeSantis and Cruz there yesterday, so I guess DeSantis doesn't jinx Miami.
I guess he's a Florida lucky charm.
And I'll tell you what, I'm on the deal with Ted Cruz in this curse where I'm like, you know what, that dude can go to whatever game. Like, it sucks. I don't feel bad for him, but I'm like, damn, it would suck to every time you go to a game to know that everyone goes, oh, we don't want him here. Because
even people who might support you politically are like, why is he here?
All because of Twitter. All because like social media has turned it into a thing.
No, he was at the Texas A&M game as well. So maybe Texas, the curse has been passed back to the Aggies. But I don't know. I still would rather he not come. Sorry, Ted.
All right, let's roll into the game. A&M season ends in heartbreak. It ends literally in the end zone with seconds left from the 5-yard. A&M had first and goal at the 5.
Very reminiscent of 2 weeks ago, it felt like, because you had that last chance it was much more close this
Yeah, I was about
game.
to say, it to me, it didn't feel like that other than kind of the reasons A&M lost, which we'll go into in a minute. That, to me, was very reminiscent. The ending of this one, this was just like, it was like 2 teams went into and just decided, hey, we're not going to play this on a football field. We're going to go play it on the pavement, and we're not going to put pads on. We're just going to put, tape our knuckles and start boxing. I knew it was going to be a defensive game. I thought in that 21-17, 23-20 range, had no idea ever. I don't think anybody did that it would be 3-3 with 90 seconds left. And look, it was ugly from a missed field goal standpoint. It wasn't like
I could have made some of those field goals, and I have osteoarthritis in every compartment of my knee.
I think you would, but I also think you might just literally kick your knee out. So we're not going to do it because I don't want that on my.
No, pay me enough NIL money. I'll just go buy a new knee.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, missed field goals by both teams, and then especially Miami missed 3. Then you had.
Miami would have had that game locked down if they made those.
And nobody.
They had Bert Auburn sitting there on the sideline, didn't even want to toss him in. Can't blame him one bit.
Bert Auburn, I texted you that. I said, dude, I forgot. Bert Auburn was there. The fact
that kicker was playing over Bert That's what we were dealing
The
with
fact
last year.
that
That is why Texas went for it so much last year, because you could not. I think Sark knew he could not trust Burt.
A&M made a kicking change in that game when Zirkle, the starter, missed one. He kicked it too low and got blocked. They brought in a kicker. And what does that say about Miami that they waded through 3 misses there? But anyway, both offenses, it wasn't like LSU Bama 9-6 or whatever that game was.
LSU OU, or was that Bama?
No. I'm talking about Bama LSU national title game, like the game of the century.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about this season.
The best defenses you've ever seen littered within it. But this had as much to do with like both offenses really struggling and I think playing pretty, as the game went on. Bad.
I said it was an offensive mid-off on Twitter. I think we could probably change that to an offensive bad-off at this point, because it didn't look good from really. And I mean, Le'Veon Moss didn't come back in the game, did he?
No. But
so that was also
they were bottling him up too. Look, it was two outstanding defenses, and they were playing against offenses where I think both could thrive. And then A&M, the A&M defense broke on one play, and that was the difference. And then the Miami defense rose up, in the most important moment of the game. So it was really like the Hurricanes rose up twice in the final, 3 minutes, once on offense and once on defense, and that's the difference in winning or losing 10-3, or winning 10-3 or going to overtime at 10. So heartbreaking way for A&M to lose. It's you guys felt it last year. It was in the Final Four, but still, whoever loses in the playoffs like that way, final minute of the game comes down to a final play. It is gut wrenching, and it is one that you sit there a day after, right, and you're going, man, how long is this one gonna just stick in my craw? Like, how long is that one gonna hurt for?
Yeah.
Can I say something real quick? Part of what made it not, I wasn't expecting the Aggie offense to be that
bad,
that ineffective, that bad. So that part surprised. Yeah, we'll call it bad. You're right. I wasn't expecting that, but you were expecting a close game. But the way A&M played, okay, so then you and I went through this, and I'll give you credit because you asked the tough questions each time. When they lost to South Carolina, you said, "Are you concerned?"
When they won to South Carolina,
yeah, they won.
When they had the bad first half, and then
and you said, "How
miracles happen?"
How worried are you? And I said, "Well, look at that second half." Then the next week they lost to Texas, and you pointed out some things and said, "How worried are you?" And I said, "Well, more so, but on the road, top 15 team, they need this break, this 3-week to regroup, playing at home." The fact that the Miami game compounded with those three, the one thing, it wasn't like any small consolation you don't want, but it just didn't feel like, had they been really impressive and won yesterday, you'd go, man, I'm dreaming of upset at Ohio. I just feel like the ride was going to end a week later anyway. I mean, this team was not playing national title contending football now for weeks, and you were hoping maybe after this break they could go back to that maybe midseason form, but it was very clear yesterday, even had they won, and it's not to take anything away from Miami or A&M. I mean, it was a fist fight, dude. It was a real football game, but neither team to me looks like a long-term contender in this playoff yesterday.
Yep. I mean, I agree with you 100%. Let me see. I lost our little spreadsheet here.
Well, we started off.
Go ahead. I think the one question you have this in here, but there was a little bit of yapping going on in the pregame, and you've been asked about this before, and your general explanation is, well, what do you expect? It's Trey Zune that we're talking about. What do you expect him to say? He's confident. I think you can see it here as well. there's a towing the line between confidence and arrogance. And I think at this point, this kind of pregame commentary is stepping over that line into arrogance. When you talk about oh, I haven't watched the tape, but he won't be a problem.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you should watch the tape, Trey. Maybe you should take a look at that, and you won't have Bain with 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 1 blocked field goal.
Jeez, I forgot he blocked the field goal.
So having that on film,
and a forced fumble, if I'm not mistaken.
that he feels like he doesn't even need to watch the film, but he's not going to be an issue. That's just not a good look. And I've seen a lot of Aggies that also feel like that's not a good look, and it also irritates them. It would irritate me if a Longhorn was saying that in the pregame.
Well, and they did.
As an athlete, you need to watch the film. And you need to just put some mutual respect on your opponent in the pregame and yap after the fact.
Here's what I'll say. And Bain did plenty of yapping after the fact, and I'm okay with that. I don't, I'd rather the players not sit there and say F whoever A&M, I don't want to see A&M saying F LSU, F Brian Kelly, all that. But A&M
I don't like that part
But A&M did plenty of chirping after they beat LSU, and they were talking, that's part of football.
The thing is, they earn the right to chirp after you win the game.
And when you individually call out, and A&M did that prior to Texas. So the film part, I think, I know Trey, not like deeply known, but I've known him over the years. It was more about, it just came off wrong, and I think that involves some hey, you're going into this presser as veterans. Armaje did it the week before. Ruben had an answer. You have to know, you can go one of two ways with it, right? You can kind of walk that line of confidence versus kind of on camera, on mic, coming off as blowing off the opponent or overlooking them or making them feel like you're overlooking them or just kind of a little disdain there. Or you could just go all in on it, or you can be buttoned up and do. To me, the safe path is always
I would believe
up.
that he didn't mean it to come off that way if he hadn't done it the week prior.
Well,
against Texas,
and it was more than one of them the week prior. I think that is just. I think that's part of. At the risk of you clapping back here, and you feel free to, obviously, but I think that's part of learning how to win and how you feel
they should know how to win at this point in the season.
That's true. That's true. Now, what I'll say is, Bain, at the end of all this, regardless of who stepped over the line, who did, whether it was too much or not, Bain clearly took it as motivation. Their defensive line clearly took it as motivation. Material. It's classic bulletin board material. And again, you have to, we said this before the game, you have to go out there on the field and back it up. And the Miami defensive line, it's not just one guy. They controlled the football game. Texas A&M couldn't run. That led directly to them sacking Marcel Reed 7 times. That was by far a season high. I think the most was Auburn, maybe with 4, way earlier in the season. And they forced the 3 turnovers. I mean, just a massive game. And held A&M to 3 points. Held a team out of the end zone in the college football playoffs. That was a remarkable
that was a first.
Feat. And they were definitely a motivated group. And I think there are lessons to be learned for the Aggies to say. And I'm sure it's something Mike Elko probably told them after the fact this week and will reiterate probably every week from now on next year. Hey, guys, you're going into that presser. Just the number one goal when you walk out of there is to not give bulletin board material to your opponents. And let them do that to you. Let them fire you up, not the other way around.
So I posted after this game that obviously second year for Mike Elko, should still be proud of this season, 11-win season. And there were a lot of Aggies in the comments that did not feel the same way. And I think a lot of Aggies have the feeling now the end of this amazing run has been tarnished by losing to your arch rival by 2 scores and losing in a very ugly fashion in the college football playoff at home, which is also another first. Well, you're not the first. OU
Yeah.
beat you to that.
Yeah, by a
fortunately.
day. Yeah,
By
thankfully.
a day. So shout out to the Sooners on that one.
You know,
But there's a lot of you can deny this all you want. There's a lot of Aggie fans that are feeling like this, like they were duped all season. This team was not as good as they thought they were. There were some serious flaws that were exposed at the end of the season by these two teams that had a bit more of a pulse than the other opponents you were playing throughout the season. And I mean, Brandon Walker said it himself on Unnecessary Rough. He was saying after that South Carolina game, there were some red flags that were waving that you should have been recognized. So knowing that and knowing how many players you lose to, because this is a relatively older team, how many players you potentially lose to the draft, you're obviously, every team's most likely going to have some unexpected players pop into the portal. This is just the nature of the sport these days. What is that? Looking at the schedule next year, it only gets harder than, I mean, it's not hard to get harder than what was this year, but it gets significantly harder next year.
Yeah, it does.
How do you feel about that?
That's a lot to unpack. I want to go back and revisit the kind of you talked about it, the schedule and how tested were they? What were the red flags? You know, were they as good as advertised? We'll go into that in a minute because I think that's important. It's a discussion that, you know, like I could sit here and want to avoid it after our clip last week. I could want to avoid it, you know, at the end of the season. But if everyone else is talking about it and we don't, I think it's a disservice. And some A&M fans might not like that. You don't know what I'm going to say yet if you're an A&M fan or a Longhorn fan. So stay tuned. But for now, to go to what you're saying, I think you have to really take out. It's hard to do and you posted that tweet, and I agree with you. It was a great second season. It does leave a very bad taste in your mouth. It's almost like
people were comparing it to still feeling like 8-4 because the only two teams you played, I mean, other than Notre Dame, that really had something that were ranked at the end of the season, you lost to.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the wrong way to look at it. It can feel that way to you, like not you, but people. And I don't know what you think, but it can feel that way.
I mean, I tweeted that it was something to be proud of.
Yeah, it's just wrong. It's dead ass wrong to view it that way. Like, if you followed this season, and we can unpack here in a minute, like what really went down, like what did they really do? But like, they spent most of the season. Think about things I'm saying about Texas A&M football, and as I'm saying it, remember, when's the last time we've said this about A&M football? They went on the road and won a top 10 game against a team that's still might very well finish in the top 10, despite missing the playoffs.
Notre Dame.
Yeah. They went on the road and beat 2 ranked teams, so 3 ranked wins. They beat a top 15 team at LSU. Forget about the ranking. They'd never won in Baton Rouge, and they smoked them. Beat them worse than anybody beat them all year. They went 11-1. Think everything I'm saying, there's been easier schedules in A&M history. Don't forget, they've played in the Big 12 where it's been like OU and Texas, and that's it.
Let's toss that in the trash. It's been over 10 years.
That's my point, though. They still weren't winning. It's been a long time since they've had an 11-1 regular season. They went to the college playoff in year 2, which I'd love to see the list of head coaches that have done that. Now, what I get and I understand, it is packaged differently now. This is like a basketball team that wins the conference and goes one and done in March Madness, and they finish in the top 5, and they're a number. I think where A&M was, you could call them like a number 2 seed in March Madness, right? And it's not like losing to the 15 seed, you know, some Cinderella that you have no business losing to. That would be like losing to James Madison or Tulane. This was like being a number 2 seed, having people talk about you as a contender all year, and you did great things, and you get to March Madness and you beat a 15 seed, and then you're playing like who plays the 15? It's 2-15. You're playing a 7 seed as the 2, and you lose, and you look up, and bam, the season's over, and you're going, what just happened? And then you go back and you know, assess it, to me, it's a very disappointing finish. They lost their last two. I would not disagree with you that they lost to two of the three best teams they played. That I don't think we had that long debate last week. That was about who was at the top. That is
two of the three best teams they played, I would say, yeah.
For sure. Like, I don't think anyone could dispute that. So, yeah, there's a bitter taste in your mouth about it. And it's also, you mentioned the losses to the NFL. TBD on how you do in the portal and stuff, but there's a reality to it that part of why A&M was able to kind of strong arm a lot of these teams throughout the season and building that 11-0 record had to do with experience and keeping guys back for one more year. And that experience, a lot of it, is going out the door. So I do see where people go, man, this was the best shot, and we lost to Texas, and it cost us the bye, and it cost us this whatever this great path would be, and we got a tough draw in Miami, but still we had a home game. So you lost at home in the playoffs. Your offense really sputtered the last 3 games of the season, save for one half against South Carolina, one kind of desperation.
I think it just feels
there.
reminiscent to last year for a lot of people of just the offense sputtering in the end of the season. Marcel Reed making some really bad decisions. How many interceptions in his last three Power 4 opponents?
Well, I think it's 8. It was 8 turnovers.
8 turnovers. And I mean, this is a guy that you launched a Heisman campaign for. Yeah. And then that's what comes out of it. And you can't blame it on something like the O-line for this. Because, I mean, the O-line was getting a bit more battle tested, but you're supposed to have one of the best O-lines in the league. So you'd expect a quarterback like Marcel Reed to at least, one, have some better decision-making, because a lot of those were just bad throws.
And red zone was a killer.
There was a dirt ball to Casey Concepcion that would have been a touchdown had it not been thrown into the grass in front of Casey.
That might have been the play, the biggest. It almost reminded me of Mateer, and it wasn't his throw. It was the receiver dropping it the night before where he scrambled. You had a guy wide open for a likely TD there, and he just dropped it. In the case of this one, it was a bad throw. Both were just like absolute game-changing plays.
And it's just seeing that, like, so Arch had some really bad games like that in the beginning of this season. You hate to see that. It makes you nervous. But you saw less of that as the season progressed. You saw smarter decisions. I don't think he had a fumble. I don't know if he had any fumbles at the end of the season. He turned the couple times he turned the ball over, it was in the receiver's hands. It wasn't on Arch. I'll have to look up his turnovers towards the end of the season. But
he protected the ball.
The biggest concern for me is even if all the other tools around you aren't working like they're supposed to, you got to have a semblance of ball security. You have to be making the decisions you need to do to not throw it straight into defenders' hands and just completely blow up the opportunity that your team had.
Yeah, I think yesterday looking back, like Marcel was very erratic with accuracy, and a lot of this, I think the last few opponents, maybe starting with South Carolina, like you just saw a lot more zone defense in these last three, and it clearly, I don't know if it affects like his desire to throw over levels and hit in windows, and he's not sure of letting that rip, but there was a lot of indecision, happy feet, kind of eyes jumping around, and I don't know how much the wind played in. Neither quarterback had a very,
I'd rather see him run the ball. He's good on his feet.
I would have liked to see more like QB, like where Colin Klein steps in with quarterback power and get him running with some blocking in front of him, like make him that kind of weapon. But going back to Marcel, I think, his 2 kind of most disastrous plays, and the third one was too, that first fumble, because they were in Miami territory. But the 2 that were real killers, he has Craver running wide open on 3rd and 17 and throws it. It was 10 yards behind him for an interception like this. That's a first down and probably you watch the way he was running. It's a 40-yard gain, and a first down there in the third quarter. And then, of course, the play at the end, like I've said it, and I've had a lot of people say, well, Marcel, down there, don't make him a pocket passer. Let him get on the move, do a QB draw, let him follow a lead blocker. At least one, I say at least one of those plays, let him run. His throw to Craver was a really good one. But it was a tick late. And if it's not late, I think Craver doesn't have to jump up and catch it and not come in bounds. And then the throw to Reuben Owens was a great throw. Reuben got blasted, but it was a perfect spot. But on third down, his other interception, his two interceptions, Theo Melon Orstrom, the big Swede, there was a nice window, Amanda, to throw that football right at the goalpost, essentially, that's a game-tying touchdown. And he threw it, if you watch the replay, Theo's trying to do this in the air. He threw it so far behind him. His accuracy, I think, more than anything else or lack thereof, really cost him, not just on those. Think about the two interceptions I just said and the throw to KC that you just said. I mean, those are like, again, like in a tight game, those win or lose you the football game. And it was a tough outing. To go back what you're asking me, big picture-wise, you wanted to go into this offseason like a rocket ship, knowing that you're probably going to lose your last game, right? Like everybody but one team that goes to this deal, you're probably going to lose your last game, but you wanted to go flying in with no doubt in your mind as a fan, as a player, as a coach, like this thing's going here. And I think Mike Elko's got that. He knows that he's got to change some things because you can't just go status quo when your season ends with back-to-back. I don't think major upsets. They were both like within a few, but disappointing performances. Losses are always disappointing, but you got to be disappointed like in the overall performance. So yeah, it definitely leaves a bitter taste in the mouth. And I would not argue with anyone, Aggie, Longhorn, Miami fan, national media type, anyone that would say, hey, this exposed some flaws. This raised some concerns as you go in the offseason. It basically said, you're here, you're trying to get here. You weren't there this year. You felt like it for a while. You started believing it. You were giving people reasons to believe, but you're here. Well, you know where you were prior to here? You were off this grid. So I don't think it reminded you of like last year because they lost to a bad USC team in a bowl. They lost to a bad Auburn team. They didn't do that this year. They lost to two good teams.
Yeah, I think you're doing a disservice to fans if you sit here and the biggest disservice, I think, is sunshine pumping that South Carolina game. Yeah. When you sunshine pump that South Carolina game to make it be the most amazing comeback in SEC history, and not something that's like, whoa, that is a really bad team you almost lost to at home.
Okay.
That is a red flag for me.
So I would
that could have been a loss with one different decision from South Carolina. With one field goal kick from Shane Beamer.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that. I absolutely think if we went back, you would probably hear me do both. I think there was something to be said to be undefeated at that time and have that comeback was something special. Now, if we ignored those red flags.
My point is there is no reason to need that comeback when you are playing a game at home against I think they are second to last in the SEC.
Yeah.
You're playing a game at home. You are undefeated. You are ranked at the very top of the SEC. Especially, I'm leaning on this home environment thing.
Okay.
Because it's something you love to lean on. There is no excuse for that first half performance at this point in the season.
So what you're saying, I don't disagree with, is what you're saying is that was a sign of things to come. That was the red flag to say, you got some flaws that are going to end up catching up to you moving forward because you're looking at it's Texas, and then it was obviously going to be a playoff game after that, if not an SEC title game. Like, basically, it's going to get exponentially tougher from here on out, and you were damn fortunate to beat a bad South Carolina team. So, yeah, I mean, if that's what you're saying is like that was the red, as we look back, that was the red flag, yeah. And if you want to sit here and say, That's what I was trying to tell you X number of weeks ago. I would agree with you, and I would say you did sit here and say that. But I think we both also said that was a magnificent comeback. I think we both said this, we could check. If they play like that anymore, they will lose every. There's no one they're going to play again. So yeah, that was
that was my. I caught up with my train of thought. My point with that was, and I said this after that game: if you play another team like you played in that first half against South Carolina, they're not going to let you back into that game. It's going to catch up to you, and especially when something like that happens at a home environment. Last year, Texas had that moment, but it was against Georgia. Yeah. They started off lackluster and they could not catch up. And it was in a home environment. A little bit different, but a team like South Carolina, when that's happening, I think some got lost in this is such an amazing comeback. And I'm going to compare this to the game. I'm going to compare this to Mississippi State, Texas. Yeah. Because I had a whole lot more concerns coming out of that game than I did, wow, what an incredible comeback. Yes, I was happy that Texas won. I was more pissed that they had to win in that way. And I think looking at it as you should be pissed that A&M had to win in that way instead of, wow, incredible comeback. Marcel Reed should win a Heisman because he did that in the second half. You need to look at what he did in that first half because that is not just a little passing thing, and obviously it caught back up to him again.
Yeah, no question about it. And listen, I will agree with you on that whole thing you just said. Like it was major red flag, but I do think the comeback was such, and it was historic for A&M football that they've ever played, and there was so much excitement about that it kind of clouded that. But one thing I will disagree with is to say it's a disservice to tell fans like this was a tremendous, and you say this is weird because you said it at the beginning, so we're agreeing. This was a tremendous year 2 under Mike Elko. It bodes very well for the future, but the ending is something that you have to dissect and you have to say, how do they fix that? How do they take another step or two? Because there are still steps to be taken. So let's not crown and anoint A&M as a perennial playoff contender out of the SEC, especially when they lose as much as you talked about. And I was on Texas' ass this summer, and I was right because that's why it took the Longhorns so long to get it going, was because they were replacing a ton. And in this league, it is too hard to do. That's going to be A&M next year on the O-line, on the D-line. You're replacing a ton. And the schedule for not just the Aggies, not just the Longhorns, but everyone in this league.
That's my biggest thing is the schedule. Like this year, you should be happy about winning the games that you won on your schedule. Yeah. Yes. But you still need to raise those red flags about plenty of people were raising the red flags about Kentucky and Mississippi State, even UTEP for Texas, raising red flags about games you won because they weren't won in pretty ways. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, they're wins, but you got to look at those and dissect them if you want to get better as a team. Yeah. And so I think A&M, the South Carolina game, the Texas game, and now the Miami game are probably the 3 biggest games you need to look at and say, okay, what happened in these games that broke down? What are we losing next season? And how do we fix those things and add where we need to add to be able to compete in what is a much more difficult schedule?
Yeah, it is. It is. And again, both can be true. And I think fans should be really excited about the direction of the program. But I think fans, and this goes more so for the Elko and his staff and the players to say, it ain't getting easier. It's only going to get harder, and you want to stay there. You don't want this 1-year uptick. So with that said, I think his biggest priorities are, just to keep it short, I just mentioned them, it's lines of scrimmage. I think they need to continue to try to upgrade the secondary in terms of guys that can tackle and fly around. I think those are portal priorities. And I think with Craver coming back and some other guys, you need to go get another impact playmaker like Casey Concepcion, who I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming he's going to be off to the NFL. And my personal opinion, think he's ready. So with all that said, I think we kind of tackled this game. But just you go out in it where you miss a field goal, you turn the ball over 3 times, a couple times in the scoring zone. You felt like you could have won that thing and you didn't, and it's gonna sting. It's gonna sting for a while. But again, hell of a season. And we'll talk more about this team and some things here coming up. So I guess along those lines, we may as well revisit that because that's what we're talking about. You've kind of alluded to it. You mentioned it with what people are thinking. But last week we sat here and there's the elephant in the room, which is, was A&M finally put to a different type test these last couple weeks for the first time since Notre Dame? And, you know what I'm talking about. So we had a little clip.
I wasn't going to point this out because you did say something similar along the lines of the point you were trying to make in that little exchange we have of A&M went on the road and beat 2 ranked teams, referring to LSU and Mizzou. I think, yes, I am a person who, when you have a ranked win, if they were ranked at the time, it's a ranked win. But I think at the end of the season, it deserves a little bit reevaluation of the actual quality of team you were beating.
I agree
because
with
when
that.
you got a 3rd-string quarterback, because I said backup quarterback, it was 3rd-string quarterback you were playing at Mizzou. LSU looked atrocious in that second half. They
fired Brian Kelly the day after.
And they fired Brian Kelly, and I think the firing of Brian Kelly was what a lot of people on the outside and what a lot of players in the locker room were feeling coming. The vibes were not great in Baton Rouge.
Yeah,
so
no,
I think,
and
obviously the end of the season pans out. Neither of those 2 teams are ranked. You draw a line through it's just a fact. You draw a line through the SEC schedule. The top 8 teams in the bottom, or tops however many are in the
line,
SEC.
you're gonna
the lot of teams. The top half, the bottom half. Every single team in the bottom half, except for Kentucky, is on A&M's schedule. The other team on A&M's schedule, Texas.
Yeah.
So when you just look at that very cut and dry type situation, was A&M tested to the capacity that they were tested at Notre Dame at all through SEC play?
No, they weren't. But, listen, they were not, but they looked very impressive in doing so. And that's where I think not just me, but you to a degree as well, but especially like people around the country were all in on this team because of it was kind of who they were beating because like you said. Wait,
people
hold on.
all in on this team. There's a reason that they weren't number 1 in the country despite being undefeated.
I know, and people were they were kind of like cautious with it, right? That was fair. They were cautious with it. You could kind of tell they were like, we're not going to move them up. They moved them up, I think, maybe after they beat LSU in that one.
Beat Arkansas by 1 score.
Yeah. What is that, 45,
He beat
42?
Auburn by 1 score.
Yeah. They were impressive during the middle of the season, for sure.
Beat South Carolina by 1 point.
Okay. That was not the middle, and that was the end of the season.
I'm just talking about the lower half.
The lower half thing. I get it.
Hanging your hat on the wins.
But I'm telling you, over the course of, from Notre Dame until South Carolina, that was a really impressive performance, like stretch of football when you compared it to other teams and what they were doing.
I would subtract the Arkansas game from that analysis. there's no reason Arkansas should be scoring 42 points on an elite defense.
Well, that goes to your red flag thing. And we talked about that after the game. And I didn't disagree with you. I kind of would say, well, it turned into one of those shootout things. But yeah, I don't
even if it's that Arkansas never had the ball with a chance to win.
Yeah.
42 points is 42 points.
It is. I mean, look, they weren't perfect during that stretch, and that's why there were people questioning, like, hey, are they really a top three? But there were also a lot of people that were saying they were because they were looking at the pieces and things and taking into account, hey, they're light against the run at times, that's for sure. And I think I said repeatedly, and this was right, when A&M's season ends, it is going to be, there were three things, and it was all three of them, not just Saturday, but against Texas. All three of these things were true. It is going to be when it ends. And I didn't think it would end in round one of the playoffs. I've said this. You can find it. You can quote me on it. I said it's going to end because of their porous run defense. I said it's going to end because of turnovers, and if Marcel's going to have to protect the football, and it's going to end because of a shaky kicking game.
I said that run defense thing after what game?
Oh, you were pretty on it the first two games. I actually was weirdly encouraged after Notre Dame. They held Love to like 94 yards on 20-something carries. That was actually one of the games they didn't give up like a massively long touchdown run against probably the best running game they faced all year. But yeah, what happened Saturday, that got bad as the game wore on, and that's what you'd hoped A&M could do. I think I said all week, whoever wins that run game battle, and when you had Parrish go for, what did he go for, like 175? No, not. I'm sorry, take that back. Parrish is their old running back. When Fletcher went for like 172. And a 50-plus yard touchdown with the game on the line. I mean, that
average 10.1. That's a pretty decent average, I'd say.
I said this about Miami, and I think we have a lot of Miami fans listening. And shout out, by the way, the Miami fans. They came into Kyle Field, came into College Station. A lot of them had come back and said it was the best road trip they'd ever been on. And I met a whole crew of them on Friday, so they know who I am. I'm now in their group chat.
Because they weren't wearing burnt orange. That's why they had such a good time.
We like their color orange. We like bright orange. But their fans
I will say I did notice some Aggie fans doing a U down instead of a horns down.
Okay, good. I like that.
That was a lovely development. You remembered what team you were playing.
I'm a fan of the U down when you're playing Miami. But their fans were awesome. But they came in and what I find interesting about Miami fans, because I deal with fan bases all the time, probably the largest percentage of fans that I personally deal with, that the week they play A&M or leading up to this game, they consume like everything. We had one come in and two Miami fans come in and sit in on the Friday show here at Texags Radio. So like so many of them like consume so much at Texags during the week. Amanda, I hate to tell you this, but I don't even want to tell you how many people watched that clip from the Miami fan base.
I can tell you how many it's up to on TikTok if you want me to.
Yeah, how many?
We are at 14.6 thousand, which is actually one of my lower performing TikToks, so you might be lucky in that.
I don't think that's true. That's a pretty high one. I mean, I know you've smashed it. My highest
performing TikTok is 2 million, so you're catching a break there.
Well, thank God. Let's not shine too much of a light. It's the same. For those wondering, it's just the same clip, but it's on TikTok. Yep. It's the same clip.
That was a good one, so I had to post it on TikTok too.
Yeah, so
it paid on there. So,
but the Miami fans came. But going back to that though, like, I mean, it's a legitimate question. I just think people are overdoing it in terms of this team wasn't tested. It was tested. They had to win games earlier in the season. People were saying, "Oh, look, they've won games in a wide variety of ways. They won a shootout with Notre Dame. They won a defensive struggle with with Arkansas. With Auburn, they won a shootout with Arkansas. Then they went and beat the brakes off of LSU. They had a great second half against Mississippi State. It was they did it running, they did it passing, they did it with defense. There was a lot of that, and it made people go, this is a very well-rounded football team. But yeah, I mean, our whole debate spun around me kind of trying to compare Texas with some of the other teams that A&M beat.
I got to cut you off there,
Okay,
because winning in so many different ways against lesser opponents. What was your commentary the last 2 seasons about Texas football's schedule?
You tell me, because
I tried to have the same, won the games on the schedule. Some of the teams, really bad teams. One of those seasons was a Big 12. Last year, not an exceptionally strong SEC schedule. Every single time somebody tried to prop up Texas, you reminded who was on Texas's schedule.
True.
So, I mean, I just think, and I've said this on this show many a times, you win the games on your schedule and you prove it when it matters. You didn't prove it when it matters. Texas proved it when it mattered last year.
Yeah.
They proved it when it mattered in the Big 12 championship. They lost in the college football playoff on a devastating final play.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just interesting to see how this perspective has so drastically changed over the course of a year when A&M's football schedule isn't quite as strong as you thought it would be when we're looking at the season's end.
It is interesting. And your point is taken. But okay, so I have the stockpile of Texas schedule. If you want a good laugh, I don't want to go there.
Billy's Twitter, type in schedule and Texas in the search of his tweets, and you'll have just a field day of just previous takes on the Texas Longhorns football schedule from 2024 and 2023.
You're having a field day here, so I'm just going to say this. You were right and everybody knew it last week. It's
like you can't control your schedule. You win the games that are on it and you prove it when it matters.
No, but you were right about what you were saying was this. And you had a lot of support in it. And I'm not, prideful enough to sit there and debate it when the performance Saturday showed it. You weren't bashing the team. You were just saying they haven't proven it enough to assume that they're going to, go out and go on this run because there isn't enough evidence to say. And so you say it in a different way, and it made, you got the best of the exchange. So all the Miami fans jumped in, the Texas fans, even some A&M fans, a lot of them. And, it becomes this someone said that one of the Miami fans, not fans, he actually runs a big Miami site. He said, when he met me, he said, I know who you are. He goes, you were a victim of viral decontextualization. And it was a clip that, for whatever reason, and it's what we do. Like, people that don't understand, like, I signed off on the clip going out too. We both were like, yeah, that's a great clip. That's going to get people talking. It's going to get people debating. It went one particular way. And what did you say? Don't go in the mentions. Don't argue. It's not going to end well.
I open my Twitter. I have 15 notifications.
That's a low number.
All from Billy arguing with trolls. And because I only get notified if it's somebody that I follow back on
I don't
Twitter
mind, but I don't
comment. And every single one of them is him fighting for his life. like
I'm gonna try.
Somebody needed to throw him a life raft because he was drowning in these mentions.
I'm gonna try, and some of them were really funny. By the way, people don't realize like some of this is funny. But
sometimes you just don't need to engage the trolls, or some of them are real people. Some of them were trolls, and you need to engage them.
And a lot of the real people came up and they enjoyed it, and they, but listen, at the end of the day, what you were saying, and you say it in such a way, Amanda, that if you want to be like defensive and be rubbed the wrong way by it, you can. And you don't need to lose that just because like some of our exchanges here are going to piss people off because it's a day after a loss and they're going to say, oh, this condescending one. No, people say that about me too. and as they get to know me, as your fan base has, is the Miami fans, the LSU, whoever it is, they understand and they get to know the person, and they listen to the other stuff that doesn't piss them off, that doesn't offend them, and then they remember, oh, yeah, she's going to call it this way at certain times, but other times she's going to be the one to say, hey, it was a great second year under Elko, or it was, this team deserves to be ranked here. It goes on. So, but the way you deliver it plays to the Twitter, the viral clips and all that. And that's actually a good thing for you and for this podcast and for me in terms of like what we do with this. But like at the end of the day, what you were saying was, I don't think they've proven enough for us to assume they're going to beat Miami or make a run in this playoff, because all I've seen is Notre Dame and Texas that matters to me when I'm trying to assess them in the postseason. That was what you said.
I have one thing to point out, going back onto the schedule thing, because you love to discuss Texas's schedule last year and their performance
the last
against
12 years I was doing that. Let's be honest.
So a fun fact for you. So we pointed out all the 1-score wins that A&M had this year over bottom half SEC opponents.
Yeah.
Texas did not have a single 1-score win over a bottom half SEC opponent last year. They were all won by 2 scores or more. Most of them by 3 scores or more.
I can't say that. I'm going to say it now. That was a great Texas team. I said it after the season. I certainly wasn't during. If your point is, I wasn't doing it during the season. That's for sure.
You would not give them any benefit of the doubt during the season, even though they were beating the brakes off of those bottom half SEC teams like they should have when they're a very good team. They beat the brakes off of Mississippi State with the backup quarterback, and they beat the brakes off of Oklahoma. They beat the brakes off of Florida. They didn't beat the brakes off of Arkansas, but it was a 2-score game at the very least.
Yeah, they controlled
beat the brakes off of Kentucky.
By the way, how in the hell did you?
That 2-score win at the end of the season.
How in the hell did you must have had just a lot of laughs watching that thing just blow up last week. Like there was some entertaining responses and replies in it. And then just for you, I guess, I've gone
viral a few times.
You got a lot of credit. Yeah, but that one, I think you got more probably football credit in that one. It wasn't like a bookmark thing. That was more of like, hey, let's sit down and duke it out with this one.
The thing is, I am a person that knows I just can't blab just anything and expect it to go over well on the internet, because if I happen to misspeak once, the entire internet will let me know that I'm a woman and I shouldn't talk about football because I don't know anything, even though I've probably played more minutes of an NCAA sport than anybody in my mentions. But, so I'm gonna know what I'm talking about if I'm pointing something like that out.
Well, let's see. Along those lines, that came about because we were doing a little Q&A stuff. Let's hit that real quick, because you opened up a thread and asked people. They had some questions, and I know you certainly. There's a lot you talked about this year, and let's talk about that and do some of these.
Do we
questions.
Want to start with the Twitter questions or with my questions?
Probably yours, because I feel like the Twitter ones we can go rapid fire too.
Well,
so
one of mine this is my question as well as.
And by the way, I'm taking them. I'm gonna answer them for those. I know I saw people say, "Oh, we're gonna talk about the questions," because I think we're at the end of the season, and there were a lot of people last week, chirping and going back and forth. So let's tackle them.
This was my first question, and it also popped up in the Twitter questions, but I just wanted to ask you how it feels knowing that Texas has a college football playoff win in the year 2025, but A&M does not.
Oh, it was in 2020. I didn't think about that.
It was a mistake.
I don't care how many Texas had. I wanted that one yesterday. It doesn't make it feel any worse. It's
a funny fact.
It is. It is funny. I didn't think about that, but yeah, no. No, and then some, it does, it's funny, that's it. I'm pissed off enough about the loss yesterday, disappointed enough that doesn't add anything to it.
Other one, because this conversation happened a bit on social media, courtesy of our friend SEC Mike. If you had to pick a quarterback going into the next year, are you sticking with Marcel, or would you rather have Arch Manning or John Mateer? And I know you're probably going to throw one of those out pretty quickly.
I will throw Mateer out pretty quickly. Now,
I mean, SEC Mike disagrees with you,
I know
even
he
though
does. He's my guy,
smart.
and he disagrees.
Mateer's stats would disagree with just about anybody. OU's fan base disagrees.
I'll tell you
with
the primary.
that
There's a primary difference between Marcel and Mateer, and it's that Mateer was talked about all offseason because of what he did at Washington State.
Very hyped.
Very, very hyped. I had people that I'm friends with in the SEC picking him as the SEC Player of the Year based on what he did at Washington State.
He was another preseason Heisman. People pumped him up like a preseason Heisman contender as well.
Well, I said this from the beginning. They beat Michigan, and he should have thrown 3 picks in that game. And I'm like, yeah, he made that amazing dart.
We both agreed on that. Once he faces a better defense, it's going to be game over.
I didn't think he looked very good at all in that controversial win over Auburn. And if you look back in hindsight, hell, who knows? Maybe that would have put Notre Dame in the playoff had they lost the game they should have to Auburn, and then you guys would have been next up. But
looked bad against Texas, threw 3 interceptions.
Bad against Texas, and looked bad in some of their wins. Like some of his, it was the defense that's winning all those games. So I know he doesn't have a ton to work with, but I just think he's way too risky with the football. And the difference between him and Marcel is he was anointed this Heisman contention and stuff before doing anything. Marcel, while it ended up being, he couldn't get it to the finish line, and the season is a finish. Like you've got to. It's a 13-game season if you're going to win it usually because you're probably on a conference championship game. So while Marcel couldn't get it there, he still went into contention. And again, not me talking. He went.
I'm picking Marcel. You don't have to argue with me. I picked Marcel over.
I'm telling people the difference. Marcel earned that credit with some pretty brilliant games this season. Now it's a full body of work, and the last 3 Power 5 games were not good. And so, but with that said, I think Marcel did more on the football field at quarterback, engineered a much better offense that for a lot of the year, that's why A&M was winning. You mentioned some of those shootouts, whereas John Mateer and the OU offense were kind of an anchor around that team's neck all year. So he's out of it. To answer your question of Marcel and Arch, and that is, to me, that's a really tough one because of Arch end of the year doing this and Marcel end of the year doing that. I mean, you had.
And my biggest thing is the ball, like both
ball security.
Talented when they're playing great, when they have the protection they need. My biggest thing is ball security, and that's a thing that it's hard for quarterbacks to get over.
I will say this: it's a tougher question than.
I mean, it's an easy question for me. I'm going Arch all the way.
I see.
It's cut and dry to me.
To me, it's a tougher question from the standpoint of we saw this last offseason with so many quarterbacks getting so much, and people missed on it so much because they didn't account for the learning curve and the improvement curve and how different it is for so many different quarterbacks. That's what makes it tough because what kind of jump does Marcel make going into, I say it's his final year. He could have 2 more if he wanted to.
Well, the thing is, Marcel is not going to have the benefit of this elite offense. He's going to have a rebuilt offensive line, which is similar to what Arch was facing this year. And if you look at their numbers, I mean, stats don't tell the whole story, but Arch was competing by a very subpar offensive line for most of the season. Still managed to put up very similar numbers and managed to turn the ball over significantly less than Marcel did. So that being said, he goes into the next season with a better O-line, which is going to be a priority for Sark in the portal. I don't see where it's not, as well as some more returning players. You're not losing an entire NFL O-line like you did this year.
It's looking
that's where I
up.
put my cards. That being said, that I'm not anointing him preseason Heisman
Yeah,
favorite.
y'all don't need to do
Don't
that
take
this
this
year.
as that.
Let him do
I'm
it.
just saying if I'm picking between the two, it's pretty easy for me based on those factors and based on other circumstances that are going to happen with A&M's team that are just very similar and reminiscent of the unknowns that Texas had going into this season.
Yeah, I think you're making terrific points there. It's hard to even sit here and dispute you on it. But what I'll say is, the one difference is you're talking about with Arch. It was all those factors in his first time to start. With Marcel, we're talking about those factors, and I do think that Elko and his staff, and I know they're attacking already what they're going to be looking for in the portal in terms of offensive line. So I don't think it's going to be that long of a learning curve. But you're talking about
That's
now.
what I tried to say last year. I tried to say last year that, these guys have developed in Sark's system, and he obviously thinks they're good enough.
Yeah.
But
I didn't. But I don't like that approach. I like going. You've lost so much. You got to go attack the portal and bring guys in. I think Sark would probably sit here himself and say that was a mistake and it slowed Arch's growth because we could have put a better offensive line out there sooner. I don't know what the number is, but like the last third of the season, you certainly saw that group start to come together for Texas. And I think with a veteran quarterback like Marcel, I think Elko's going to have, I think he knows we're not going to put a wildly inexperienced offensive line in front of him because he's got too much experience that you're going to kind of be wasting that if you put him behind chaos.
he also started to get a little injury bug when he started to get hit more.
Yeah, well, shoot, he was hurt. He got hurt against Utah State. They had to cut his jersey off after the Notre Dame game. Give him some credit there. They cut that thing off. I've got the picture of the jersey because he couldn't lift his arms up to pull the shoulder pads off. But the turnovers concern they've got. I hope they concern the hell out of him. I know they have to, the coaching staff, and I know they do fans. There's no way in the world Marcel could honestly be walking around going, that's okay.
They concern me less if they were like balls that the receiver should have caught and they bobbled away. But a lot of them have just been bad decisions
and accuracy
and reads
and accuracy stuff. So that is where he's going to have to improve. I love the dual threat of him.
Arch also has a dual threat factor.
He does. But I think Marcel, though, what people will forget going into this offseason, and maybe that's going to be a good thing for him because he'll be hungry. I think people are going to forget how many terrific games he had this year.
But do you credit that to the terrific receivers he had on the other end of that?
They made some plays. They made some outs.
Because there were even some throws that Arch had that it looks like an amazing play, but if Arch had thrown that ball a little more accurately, he would have done the receiver some favors, and the receiver had to bail him out a bit.
Yeah, I think that's true on this end as well.
There's a couple instances where the receivers had to bail him out a little bit, which that's okay. That's how it goes sometimes. They bail each other out.
If you're asking me, is to me the number one thing, two things, like seeing that zone defense and being confident throwing against that. I think if you want to play man to man, he'll cook you. He's proven that. But some of that zone stuff and improving that and kind of what you're seeing, and then also the accuracy, man. It's got to. He's got to have the confidence to fit it in those windows against. Like I said, if they're dropping more guys into coverage, to kind of challenge you to fit it in those windows, and not only fit it, but be confident enough to rip it and throw it in that situation. And
I wouldn't be asking you this question also if your fans were not also asking the question of, does A&M go to the portal for some kind of QB that could filter into this system should Marcel throw up some more question marks once the season starts next year?
Yeah, I don't believe so, because I don't think it's about your decision is actually not to bring someone in to compete with him. That's going to be
just like a kind of a Matthew Caldwell situation where you have you have somebody with experience in the wings that you can toss in there.
I don't think that's what they're asking, man. I think they're asking do you basically
Replace
trade
him.
quarterbacks? And my answer to that would
the
be
question is the Reed the answer at QB. Can he take him deep? Can he take them deep in the college football playoff?
well, and your Arch Marcel question, it kind of is like you think that Arch is a quarterback that can lead Texas on a run towards an SEC or eventually a national title. You know, that you think you've seen enough to believe that, and you're asking me.
I've just seen an upward trajectory, and I hammer upward trajectories. I mean, I talked about it with A&M and their first record under Elko being 8-4, second record being 11-2. You got to be happy about an upward trajectory. Texas fans got frustrated this year because the trajectory kind of faltered a bit, but you saw Arch have that upward trajectory throughout the season in his performance. So yeah, I'm gonna be cruising on that upward trajectory. Be happy about it, and I've probably got $1 for every time I said upward trajectory in that sentence.
It was a tongue twister. But now, with that said about Marcel, I for those Aggies wondering, no, I don't see any world in where they go and make a swap out for a quarterback. This just like I don't think you'll see OU do it. And again, I don't equate Marcel and Mateer. I think Marcel had some great moments this year, and he's got a lot of room for improvement, though, to become that guy, like that dude, right? But I don't see them swapping out and starting over that. I think that's a big part of why you're kind of going to see the same system and let him operate. And I think tailor it more. I'd like to see them not be almost so bullish and committed to making him like a pocket passer. I just don't think that's necessary for him to be as great as he can be. You know, I think he's so much more lethal on the move with a moving pocket, with QB run game, and that's for them all to decide. But no, I think the only world in which you see change at that position, other than like the youngsters competing with him, I think the only way that happens would be in the world of NIL.
Or an injury.
No, I'm saying if you've just got an agent, like an unreasonable, unrealistic agent that's just trying to drive the price, every single player, whether that's your quarterback or your offensive tackle or your, linebacker, we are in a world now where agents will take every negative, knock against that you just said, and they'll crumble that up and throw it away, and they'll go, oh, here's what my client has done, and it's all the positives. And so Sark's going to deal with this, DeBoer's going to deal with this, Lane Kiffin, Mike Elko. So to me, that's the only way you see something like that, is if there's an agent saying, hey, he was a Heisman candidate, he needs X million dollars a year, and if that number's, outlandishly high. But that goes for, I think, and I'll be honest, I think it goes for every really good player in college football right now. Texas is very fortunate to have an exception to that in Arch Manning, because so much of that.
Arch took a pay cut.
Yeah, and he did. So that's awesome.
And he doesn't need the money. And to be clear, the way this breaks down, the pay cut is essentially, it's from the team's lump money. It's not. It's outside of sponsorship income. He's good on that Warby Parker and
that's a real benefit too for any program, to kind of almost get like a free high value player. That's rare. It's wild. What else do we got? What you got?
Most of the questions were about Marcel Reed.
Okay, so
which is crazy. There's another good one here. Elko is
That's 11 it for you. We're past yours.
We'll cruise through some of these since I know you got a dinner to get to. Elko is 11-9 as a head coach after Halloween. Have to be concerned about his ability to close out a season.
We're A&M, right?
Maybe it's more of a concern about ability to win those big games that matter. And people had these questions about Sark, and they were valid.
But I think Elko, big games that matter. Okay, so I've done a lot of wearing it from you today, and I think deservedly so.
I saw this somewhere else of the.
No, but I'm saying, I think
Elko 4 in
I'm
games that
saying
matter.
though, I
something
think
like
you've
that.
made some great. You've been on fire today, right? But what I'm gonna say is this: that one I'll push back on because of exactly what you were saying earlier about the rankings and how we kind of need to reevaluate what the wins were at the end of the year when we have the full body of work. And you talked about that last week, and I don't disagree. In fact, I've always felt that way. And I was feeling that way when it wasn't favorable for y'all and people were on my ass about that. But when what we call big games, that is when the game is played. That is not the hindsight thing. That is like when the game is played. So
No,
yes,
we're talking about games that have like a direct consequence. So say the Texas game last year, direct consequence is playing in an SEC championship.
oh, you mean
That's what I mean. That not just not you going to Death Valley.
See, I consider big games
that have consequence.
I consider big games like what's your
it doesn't matter what you consider. That's not the question.
Yes, it does matter. It absolutely
That's not the question. That's not the games we're referring to. We're referring to the games. So the games that like Texas this year gets you into the SEC championship. Miami advances you into the college football playoffs.
Can I tell you, you're an absolute pain in my ass sometimes. Like right then,
I'm just telling you, you misunderstood what the question was. That's not my fault.
No, the question was actually not even that. The question was, are we concerned with the record after Halloween or whenever it was? So my answer to that would be, there's a lot of like nuance to that question that you have to go in and dig into.
Insert the Aggie roller coaster over this question just for visual effect.
That thing is so stupid, but it's kind of funny.
It's kind of funny.
No, like as I look at that, I would say you have to look at it. So like last year's team, that's year one of a head coach. He was at Duke for 2 years. So there was a year one there of his 4 years as a head coach, there's 2 year ones at a school. So last year's November doesn't mean a lot to me. When you combine it with this year's finish, yeah, it kind of does. And I think you do need to look at it. And if you're Elko, you got to go, hey, did we peak too soon? And I think he mentioned that earlier in the year that, hey, you can peak too soon. He did say that. He talked about that. You have to be careful about peaking too soon. So I'm sure he's going to go back. So I think it's a legit question from the standpoint of, hey, what happened this year? We weren't playing our best football at the end. But I also think part of it goes back to what you said from the beginning, Amanda, which is absolutely true. You also, in those 3 games that you weren't playing as well, you did play 2 of the 3 best teams. And those teams, Reuben Bain, Colin Simmons, Arch Manning, London, all these players, they have a lot to do with how you are playing in those games. So, well, like you said, this year you go in, they petered out towards the end. But did they lose a kind of a last play game to Miami?
Or did they play teams that were more challenging than the teams they were playing throughout the rest of the season?
That's my point.
Like we have alluded to in the previous clip.
You have alluded to it, and you made a great point. But so my point though is I don't think it's like a November issue. I think they were learning how to win last year, and this year they ran it. You go look at their 13 games and you go, played one of the 3 best they played in game 1. They played the other 2 in game 12 and 13. And they went 1 and 2 with 2 games decided in the end zone on the last play. And then 1 game they lost, by 2 scores on the road. So I think it's as simple as that in this case. So what else you got?
One question that I think is just an interesting question to address in general is your thoughts on G5 teams being in the college football playoff and how you would arrange the college football playoff to make it equitable for everyone.
I hate it.
So maybe this can be a question for both of us because I'm on the same exact page. I mean, It's almost like the whole number of teams in the college football playoff. It's somebody made a reference to you keep adding lanes on a road and the traffic just never seems to stop.
Yeah.
It almost feels like that at this point. Like you keep trying to make it more perfect by letting more teams in, but it seems that this year it was worse than it's ever been. The G5 thing, I'm completely against. There's a bunch of college football writers that are saying, "Oh, you don't really like the sport if you don't want to give the G5 teams a chance." I want to give the G5 teams a chance if they deserve to have a chance, if they're ranked in the top 12 teams in the country.
Yeah.
Which and
That's
the
my
thing
thing.
is, it's a charity bid. It's an angel tree bid at this point.
It's insane. And I agree with everything you just said. Get them out of
It
here.
keeps two of the teams, like you sub in Notre Dame, BYU, Texas, Vanderbilt, any of those four teams to those two spots, you have vastly more competitive games. You probably have potentially different teams advancing in the college football playoff because some of those teams that were left out, I'm pretty sure they probably could have put up a fight against Ole Miss and Oregon.
Here's what I'll say. Yes. Yes and yes. We're totally on the same page. Get them out of there. I believe they will. I believe there's just been too much of an uproar this year over it. College football does adapt and change. They're no longer as slow as they used to be in doing it either, hence the 4-team to 12-team playoff. And a lot of it has to do with money. And with the money, you want a better product. With the money, you want more power conference teams in there. You want more brands like Notre Dame, like Texas. You didn't have the opportunity to put two of the biggest brands in this year because you had Tulane and James Madison. So, yes, I think there's a reason why so many people watch Texas A&M play Miami. You had an SEC team from the state of Texas that was ranked in the top 10, and you had the Miami Hurricanes in the U. You didn't get that at night, and everybody was just so checked out and annoyed with it. It will change. It should change. I like the idea almost of if you want to have a G5 playoff, do it. They might not act like they like it. Someone said that feels more uninclusive, where they don't feel like they're truly a part of then maybe they're not. But maybe they just play games and get a check and take their couple chances a year to slay a giant, but leave them out of it and have a stipulation where if there is a team like Boise State, back in the Chris Peterson days, that they don't miss out and you don't miss that opportunity. The Urban Meyer Utah team with Alex Smith. Have a caveat in there, much like Notre Dame has and shouldn't. Take Notre Dame's bullshit.
I think that's what I'm more mad about than anything from all these developments is that Notre Dame has a special princess caveat. Like,
take Notre Dame's princess caveat, take it away from their asses, and give it to the G5. You're in the top 12. You're in the 12-team playoff. Other than that,
that makes
out.
More sense.
Yeah.
Why does Notre Dame get to be the little special princess that automatically is in if they're in the top 12?
I'm with you, princess. Let's go on to finally. We got a little activity in Austin, seismic activity actually.
Yeah, and pretty seismic.
Quite a bit of shakeup over here in College Station as well. Let's start with. I was shocked, and we're going to wrap it up here soon. I was shocked that we had. One day I'm sitting there and Pete Kwiatkowski is let go at Texas, and then equally as shocked to know that it's Sark's old boy, Will Muschamp, Coach Boom, coming back to Austin. How did you and the Longhorn Nation feel about that when it happened?
I think most everybody was shocked when this happened, and this was not a coaching change that you expected in the offseason because Texas has long held their hat on defense, and PK has rebuilt this defense to be a very solid defense. But I will say there were a lot of deficiencies in the secondary this year that you hadn't seen in previous years, which was a problem,
unfortunately.
And that lost you the Florida game. That was a major reason that you lost that Florida game. I also think outside of that, I think there was, from what I've heard, could be wrong on this, there was an inkling of PK wanting to get back to the West Coast.
Yeah,
so
I'd heard that too.
There was some. He posted that he was very happy at. I don't think there's any hard feelings here. Yeah. I don't think it's that kind of situation, and I also don't think it would have happened if there wasn't somebody in the wings that they felt that they could shift in and be just as good, if not better. So I think that's a situation with the Pete Kwiatkowski.
I'm fascinated about Muschamp, and I think it adds a whole nother layer to this Texas-Georgia rivalry because that's a Kirby Smart BFF right there. I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, they're all friends. They're all former Saban assistants.
I'm going to tell you something about college football, Amanda, that I do know
Well, some of
is
them aren't friends that I've heard,
a
but
lot of them can be friends, but if you're on the same staff for any period of time, there is a lot of yeah, I'm cool with him, but I want to whip his ass. I don't really like him because you compete every day in front of Nick Saban, offense, defense, and Kirby Smart's getting his ass chewed out if Sark has a good day on him. I've seen coaching staffs where the offensive defense staffs hate each other, and I've seen them where they're friends, but it strains the friendship. That whole offense defense thing, and I have heard from people that have worked there that Nick Saban really egged that on. I heard from people that played for Jimbo at LSU in his offense when Will Muschamp was there as the defensive coordinator that Nick egged it on and loved the tension and loved the, almost was a total instigator to it. So there's definitely, they can be friends. It's kind of like me and you, rivals. If we have the chance to, run up the score on each other, we're going to do it. And that's what I think people are going to notice today. You kind of,
I will say
you did a little run up the score there, but that's what so it adds to the rivalry, man. I'm telling you.
if you had to pick one coach in the SEC who's probably the odd duck in the group chat, who is it? The SEC coaches group
Probably
chat.
with, I would say Eli
I have
Drinkwitz.
two names.
I would say Eli Drinkwitz, or I got one other one.
I would say Brent Venables.
Damn, that's a good one too. That's a damn good one.
Or if we're talking about last year's SEC coaches, him and Brian Kelly.
Well, I'm gonna say with Hugh Freeze out, I'm gonna say my 1-2, and I think I'll put Venables 3. My 1-2 would actually be Beamer and Eli Drinkwitz. Those are the two I'd put up there. Without just knowing what I know, I'd go those two.
Burnt vegetables leads my list.
All right. Well, why don't we? And as far as you guys hired a running backs coach, we talked about that last week.
I think it's a great hire, great decision, and I think there's an inkling we might get a good running back with him, which I think that is one of the position groups that Texas needs to hit hard in the portal. Though I am so sorry, Aggies. Weisner is looking like he's going to make a return. So
you need more than one.
You no longer have to deal with the PK defense. You get to deal with a Muschamp defense, but Weisner might be back another year.
Weisner
at the rivals.
But if you get Jaden Baugh, that's the prize. That's the coup. So meanwhile, Mike Elko with 2 promotions from within, went and elevated Lyle Hemphill to defensive coordinator, elevated Holman Wiggins from receivers coach to offensive coordinator. So that's generated a ton of chatter.
Do you like that better than him going out and trying to make some big hires?
You're just really good with the questions this week, aren't you? That's a good one. I really think all of that type stuff is to be determined, because I've had a lot of people tell me, man, you have the whole country to go find a coach.
I mean, A&M they have plenty of money,
unlimited resources, so I guarantee you Mike Elko heard a lot of that too from kind of unsolicited advice, probably also people who he did solicit advice from. I do believe you're taking a risk when you do that, when you're kind of there's an opportunity out there that maybe you didn't uncover. But for Mike Elko, it's not for lack of effort and thought and action. So when people don't realize, like, he's out talking to offensive coordinators as soon as he knows that Colin Klein is likely to go take a head coaching job. So that was weeks in the making, and he said, this is what I feel best with. Look, it doesn't guarantee you anything. Neither does going when everybody and their dog said that Jimbo Fisher had to hire Garrett Riley after he coached TCU and Max Duggan into the national title game. And you realize so much of that was because Max Duggan was such a dog, and he was working under a great offensive mind in Sonny Dykes. He goes to Clemson. He might damn well derailed Cade Klubnik and Dabo Swinney's career. So you just never know. Texas A&M hired a guy named John Chavis that I think we're all familiar with, that myself and everyone else did a victory parade on because it was such a massive hire in terms of his track record and resume. But the folks in LSU were kind of going, hey, I think he's past his prime. And sure enough, he was. So I've learned to kind of not overjudge it. But yeah, to answer your question, there is certainly risk involved in kind of, you don't, there's got to be, in the mind, there's got to be something out there, right? But you never know. Ohio State promoted from within, and Brian Hartline had a pretty elite offense there until the national title game, or the Big Ten title game this year. So anyway, Aggies just housekeeping. I think Elijah Robinson's going to be back and in as a D-line coach, ace recruiter, a guy Aggie fans have wanted back for a long time. He turned down LSU and Nebraska to return. I think we'll hear an announcement probably by the time this goes out. Going to add a linebackers coach from Arkansas again by the time this goes out. I think Coach Williams will be here. So, and I think there'll be a little more turnover, Amanda. There'll be some Colin Klein.
I think there might be a little more turnover on the Longhorn staff too. TBD.
It's what you do, man. It's how college football goes now. We've done a lot. We could talk playoffs. Let's just get our picks, and we'll talk about it there. We have 4 playoff games coming up right after Christmas. By the way, OU's done. We don't have to worry about our
OU set a record this weekend. They beat out the Aggies to this one, so you're welcome.
Speaking of viral tweets.
They are. I can't remember if they beat their record of being the team that lost the biggest comeback to lose.
They tied it 17 points.
So great job setting history, Sooners.
Well, at least we don't have to. We can finally say, and I hate that it happens on the same weekend that A&M is cooked, but OU is finally cooked, so we don't have to worry about that one coming back to bite us anymore.
But yeah, first team ever to lose a home playoff game was OU. So. Maybe A&M should be thankful that they got the Saturday 11 a.m. kickoff instead of the.
Yeah, we got their second. Yes or no? Does Bama beat Indiana? This is also your pick.
I'm still going with Indiana. I picked because right now I told you I did 2 brackets. One of my brackets is 100% right now. And Indiana beats Alabama second round, so I'm gonna stick with Indiana.
I'm going to go upset here. Bama did not look really good, and then they did. I think that's the kind of win that could – they felt like they were flat and kind of like –
I wouldn't be mad if Bama won, honestly, because I need the SEC to do something here. I'm like that meme. It's like it's a stick.
Look who's sounding like me. I love this. You need the SEC to do
I'll
something.
cheer for a team like Bama. I will – there's 2 red teams in the SEC I'll cheer for.
Now,
and it's not the Maroon and it's not the Crimson in Norman.
Now we want the
Actually,
SEC.
I won't really cheer for Alabama.
But we want the SEC
I'll
to
cheer
do
for
good.
Georgia before I'll cheer for Alabama.
But the SEC's they're 1 and 2 now, but
I don't have an SEC team winning the national championship.
We want them to do well, and this is what I've been saying. Like, you want them to do well because next year at this time, you don't want the committee to go, well, we put 5 in last year, and that was a mistake. As a Longhorn or an Aggie, you do want the SEC to excel. You don't have to sit there and chant SEC, but you do want the league to excel. I'm going to go Bama in the upset. I think everybody's going to be picking Indiana. I think Bama is going to be
I got my other SEC team that I'm leaning into.
Okay,
it's one that beat the crap out of my team the last couple of years.
So you got Georgia over Ole Miss. So do I.
Yep.
I do too. I think Georgia's a machine right now.
Trust Kirby.
And I think the Pete Golding thing is going to catch up. It's going to catch up to them in that one of not having Lane Kiffin. It obviously wasn't going to against Tulane. Okay. What are the other? Oregon, Texas Tech. What do you think there? I'm going to go Texas Tech. Here's why.
Oh, you're just scared of the cacti in your mentions, aren't you?
I don't want to pick Texas Tech. I don't want to, but you're right.
I don't want to either. That's why I didn't.
But I think that Oregon giving up 500 and something yards and 30-plus points to JMU is a red flag. It's a red – I mean, they smoked them, but it's a red flag enough for me to go the team that beats Texas Tech is going to be the team that completely chokes out their offense and whips their O-line at the line of scrimmage. And I don't think that's going to be Oregon. So I'm going to actually go Tech there. And then finally, the game I wanted to be in, the game we are not in, Miami,
I think you know
Ohio
who's
State.
going to win this game.
Are we both picking Ohio State?
Yep.
I am too. I think closer
I'm sorry,
than
Miami didn't look great either. Their offense also looked like garbage. Y'all just out-garbaged them.
Yeah, we out unoffensed them. I do think though Miami's defensive front is going to give Ohio State real problems. But I think
I mean, that was similar. Texas's defense played Ohio State very, very well.
And I think it's going to be a slow-scoring game.
Yeah.
I don't think they blow them out, but I agree with you. Ohio State played low-scoring 14-7 against Texas. Yeah. They played low-scoring 13-10 against Indiana. I think Miami's defense is, in fact, elite. I think their defensive line is terrific. They've given up 13 points a game prior to Saturday, so now that's gone down. They will give Julian Sayin and that Ohio State offensive line problems, but I just think Ohio State's got too much, and I think the Miami offense stinks, and I think that that's
told you can't trust Carson Beck for anything.
Matt Patricia versus Carson Beck. That's my pick. So we're the same on everything except Bama, Indiana, and by the way, we're tied.
And Tech.
All right, Amanda. Well, we will do this again next week. I thought that was a good one. We had our back and forths. We had some fun.
Billy was happy. He got to talk about A&M the entire time.
That's true.
You have to move on to the other team that happens to play.
How happy do you freaking think I was sitting through that?
We haven't even talked any Citrus Bowl, and that's our next game on our schedule.
Well, we'll have to do that.
I think it's safe to say Billy was not feeling the cheesiest after the game yesterday.
I was not. In fact, now
before we go, what's your favorite Cheez-It?
I agreed with you. I agreed with you. It was the
white cheddar.
White cheddar. I was about to say Swiss.
Toasted white cheddar.
No question. Yeah. No question. All right. Well, we're gonna do it. We'll probably have some good stuff from there for all the new people, because I know everybody. They started following their favorite ball knower over here. I hope that they hope you guys enjoyed it and keep tuning in, because we're gonna kind of now that the Aggies are done and Texas has the bowl game next week, we'll follow this through the national title and talk a lot of off-season stuff. Amanda, I know we're going to do superlatives. Maybe we'll do that next week, where we talk the Horns and Aggies and kind of each of our superlatives, and kind of even get the other person's take on our team, just kind of an interesting outsider perspective. So I'm looking forward to that.
And we get to move on to basketball season, where both of our teams are kind of suspicious.
First-year coaches, man, it's tough. But Merry Christmas. We will talk.
Merry Christmas, everyone. This comes out right before Christmas Eve, I believe. So everyone have a great Christmas. And that is all.
I'm Billy.
I'm Amanda.
And we are
I'm Moving Goalposts.